It's the end of November and this year's very mild rainy season is coming to an end.
The past 2 months have brought us the first wave of annual migrants to the country. Warblers, vireos, tanagers, orioles, among others, spent their winters in this beautiful country before returning to their northern breeding grounds in spring. The following months will then bring us the second wave of annual migrants, visiting birders.
While birding in Costa Rica is great year-round, many birders will choose the dry season to visit, either on their own or as part of a guided tour, or disguised as a fun family vacation. So in today's video I wanted to share my perspective on what to expect here, give you some tips on how to maximize your chances of finding cool birds, what to pack, what not to pack, and some do's and don'ts that extend a little bit beyond birding. Let's go!
Buenas, hello and welcome back to Jabiru Stories, your channel for everything even remotely related to birds.
There are more than 900 species on the official bird checklist of Costa Rica. And given the compact size of the country and the abundance of birds, you might be thinking you'd see most of them. Well, you probably won't, and here's why.
Birding here in the neotropics is very different from what it is in the temperate zone. It's just a lot less predictable. While you might almost be able to give precise directions to specific birds in the north, it just doesn't quite work like that here. You might be in the right habitat at the right time of day with the right weather and see nothing. Come back the next day, and it's a whole different story. And of course, many forest habitats in Costa Rica look like this. Layer upon layer of green, shadows everywhere, movement everywhere. Birds aren't exactly easy to see here. So what to do? Scream in agony? Give up? Cancel your trip? Of course not. You will still see a ton of birds here, but it's important to keep your expectations in check. Number 1, visit the different habitats. For such a small country, the variety of habitats in Costa Rica is astonishing. You have the dry forest, the moist forest, the rainforest, the mangroves, all in different elevations with different birds. Except for the mangroves, of course. They have almost no birds and of course they're all on the same elevation. Anyways, that's just the forest. There are fields, pastures, wetlands, grasslands, there's the paramo, the beaches, and even a couple of lakes that in winter can be full of migrant duck species. Oh, and there's that thing called the continental divide, which means birds on the Pacific slope are different from the ones on the Caribbean slope. You can tell all of this requires quite a bit of planning, which brings us to number 2. Hire local experts. Not only does hiring local guides give a boost to the economy and is also a really good way to support conservation, it's also probably the best way to actually see some of the birds in your field guide. You see, Costa Ricans in general have a deep appreciation for the natural treasures, which means there are lots of excellent guides out there. Of course, there are some exceptions, and if your goal is to truly maximize the number of birds you see, I recommend you do a little bit of research in advance. So be prepared and study. Depending on your level of obsession and your style of birding, when I tell you to sit down and study, your reaction will most likely either be an eye-rolled duh or a shocked wait, what? But whether you're a casual birdwatcher or a serious lister, a little bit of studying before your trip will really enhance your experience. So familiarize yourself with the bird families you can expect to encounter, learn some vocalizations, and get a feeling for which birds to expect where, both in terms of habitat as well as geographic distribution. One important thing to consider when planning your trip to Costa Rica are driving times. It's a really bad idea here to just look at Google Maps and think, oh, that's not far, it shouldn't take too long. In general, I wouldn't recommend using Google Maps for anything except for general whereabouts of things. In the best case, you'll get lost. In the worst case, you'll get stuck at a river crossing. Waze is the much more popular and accurate option for navigation, and it will also tell you that while that super cool birding spot is just a few kilometers away, it will take you an hour and a half to get there. And it's not lying. Even though due to the size of the country, it's probably technically possible to see a volcano junco and a resplendent quetzal on the same day as hopping on a boat to look for some seabirds, that would be a terrible day. Always plan more time for driving than you'll think you need. I mean, worst case, you'll have more time for birding. So you may ask, what are the best places to go birding in Costa Rica? Unfortunately, that question doesn't really have a correct answer, although it does have a lot of incorrect answers. The area known as El Infernillo in Alajuela, a notorious hotbed for gang activity, is, in fact, an incorrect answer. But in all honesty, the best answer is, it depends. eBird is of course a useful tool in Costa Rica, as it is in other countries. But by design, it's heavily skewed towards sites that get visited by the most birders. In Costa Rica, birds are very much where the habitat is. You can stumble across a site that's been lying dormant on eBird for quite some time and find that the birding is absolutely incredible. A resource that I personally find incredibly useful when planning my birding trips here is Pat O'Donnell's excellent ebook, How to See, Find and Identify Birds in Costa Rica. You can purchase it on his website, on which he also runs a blog that is pretty much the quintessential reading for serious birding in the country. I believe the ebook is around $20, which sounds a little bit steep at first, but if you look at it, look at all the information that's gathered in there, look at all the work that he puts in to also updating the ebook, I think it's actually a steal, especially if you're planning your own itinerary in Costa Rica. I know it helped me get quite a few lifers and even more really cool birding moments. When my brother was here, we were driving down a highway and turned off onto this barely visible road that was winding through an oil palm plantation, and when we got through there, we arrived at this beautiful wetland that we otherwise for sure would have missed. Being completely honest, the book could probably do with a visual overhaul, but the information in there is incredible. I'll put a link in the description, and I'm not affiliated in any way. Just promoting good work. Alright, so you've decided to visit the country, you've booked your flights, you studied your bird, you learned the call of the pheasant cuckoo. Now it's time to start packing. But what do you bring? Let's have a look. I can now officially call myself a birder because I got myself these cool zip-off hiking pants. Honestly though, best purchase ever. The dry season is also the hot season, and you'll want lightweight, non-smelly, sweat-absorbing miracle shirts. Earlier this year I tried one of the Craig Hopper tropical button shirts, a trip to Corcovado, and I absolutely loved it. It dried super fast, didn't stink, kept the bugs away, good stuff. I mean, you're going to a tropical country, bring board shorts and bird shirts and you're good to go. I read a lot about people saying it's too hot to wear a rain jacket, but you'd want a lightweight jacket for the mountains and for Monteverde anyways, and I don't see why that wouldn't be your rain jacket. I'm a little used to the temperature here now, but I wear it here when it's raining. Bring a hat and sunglasses for sun protection and looking cool, and don't bring jeans. You'd have to be a maniac to wear jeans here. Now shoes. These are essential. You're not a birding machine. You need these. These are just as essential. After all, you do want to go exploring. These are my trail running shoes, but anything trainery works for the trails here. These absolutely aren't needed. I'd leave them at home. These are great and actually needed for wet season birding, and they offer at least some protection from snakes, probably more for feeling safe than for being safe, but they do take up a lot of space. I'd leave them at home and maybe get a pair here if you feel like it. Some places will also have a pair you can borrow. Obviously, you bring binoculars and a phone and a camera and a field guide. If you're not, please reconsider your life choices. Also, do bring a headlamp for night walks or owling, or just for not walking straight into a ditch at 7 p.m. because it gets dark. Electronics-wise, the power outlet is the same as in the US, so this terribly constructed contraption, so you might want an adapter depending on where you're from. Power bank is a good idea. Depending on where you're going and at what time of the year, power outages can be a very regular occurrence. Also, a good idea is a spare memory card and a spare camera battery, because if you're not in the Central Valley, good luck finding a store that sells that kind of stuff. Now, how about that scope? I mean, you spend a boatload of money on it, so you're bringing it, right? That was my thought process when I first came to Costa Rica. It was one of my very first trips that I actually designed with birds in mind, so naturally I brought my scope. Did I end up using it? Not so much. The local guides you will hopefully hire will have one anyways, and they're true masters of their craft. I know it's tough to hear it, but I'd leave it at home, so you don't have to worry about carrying it around or it getting stolen. A dry bag is a good idea. It can rain anywhere, anytime, and as we all know from general life experience, when it rains, it pours. Bring sunblock? Don't buy it here. It's expensive and terrible. Bring your water bottle. One of the nice things about Costa Rica is that tap water is perfectly safe to drink in most places. And finally, a word on money. Bring some cash in US dollars, but make sure the bills are crisp. Costa Ricans really don't like imperfect US dollar bills. Banks give them a terribly hard time exchanging them. The most important thing, however, if you're coming to Costa Rica, is to enjoy it. I've been fortunate to travel to quite a few countries in my life, and there's a reason why I keep coming back here. The country is gorgeous, the birding is incredible, and I continue to be amazed by the hospitality and friendliness of Ticos. So have a wonderful time in Tiquisia. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Let us know your favorite travel tips for Costa Rica in the comments down below. In the meantime, if you haven't already, check out our store at Jabiru Clothing. That's jabiru-clothing.com.